try to like the song because it's blowing up, or they'll dismiss things that he did that weren't right and exact, and they'll say, "Oh, but."
Mhm.
You know, it was like the father. He put the but in the degree,
Right.
and it was like because you keep saying but, so must bring rain, hail,
Rain, hail,
snow, and
snow, and
earthquakes.
earthquakes. Yeah.
So they were giving me the but brings. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And when I made Cycle of Trife, right, Kamal had given me the track, and he did his verse about like a young kid that got caught up,
Hmm.
and he was trying to do devilish, and I was like, I don't write about no street shit.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's not my experience, though. My experience in the street is dealing with those people that are trying to get out of it, though. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Right.
So I was like, yo, but what about? I told the guy, what about if that nigga made it?
Mm. Right.
What if he was shady and everything he did shady actually worked out?
Mm.
And in my experience, that was the billionaire rapper. Man, that was him, because everything I mentioned in the song is honestly actual fact.
Right.
But everything in that song was not questioned.
Hmm.
People laud the article I wrote in the source about Funkmaster Flex taking payola, but
Mm.
they never cared to hear who was giving him the payola. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Oh,
And
I didn't realize you wrote that article, G.
yeah, that was me who wrote that. You know what I'm saying? And when I was at the source, we had to spend like weeks making sure that article didn't have anything that we could be sued upon.
Hmm.
And yo, Dayson was the editor in chief at the time there, right?
Hmm.
And I remember Dayson's wild, wild. The guy was wild. And he was like, "We're listening to Hot 97 now because, yo, God, if he says something, we're gonna go down there."
Right. 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 Right.
This is the way the guy was. And like I said, yo, I was like, all right, let's do it. Yeah, did he say something? Say something. But obviously he never mentioned the article. And the thing was is that I was like, nobody cared who was paying the most money to get their songs on there. That's why I said in the song, um, when it comes back, like I start talking on it. By the way, as a note, that's the longest verse, but every single verse on this is one take. I tried the
Really?
MC craft, so I did every verse
Hmm.
on one take, including
Dope.
including Cycle of Trife. And
Dope.
that verse is like 2 minutes long. And I
Right.
did that in one take, but it did not take me one take.
I got you. I got you. But you, but the breath control, all of that's on point because you can't. It
Yeah,
does. It
right. I
sounds
had to
like.
figure out where to
Mhm.
where to breathe, where to all
Mhm.
that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I said, like all the things saying there is the points. That's why I said, you know, we got ethos for Bezos and principles for Bill Gates and criminals. So the right of a hustler is to get richer. That all harms are okay if you get bigger. This is just a more lavish thinking of a
Mm.
figure. And obviously, I was supposed to say nigga, but I said figure.
Mhm.
That's just me paying homage to MF Doom because Doom does that all the time.
Right. Right. Right.
You know what I
Dope.
mean?
Dope. Dope.
But I was like, we allowed heinous comedy originality. So the shark biters in this game of insanity allow everything.
Mm.
And I said snare coffin productions. I used to write snare coffin when the beats are whack. I used to say it's a snare coffin. You know what I mean? This shit's dead. And I said snare coffin productions, hot summers. Because remember he said hot summers. You get hot. I
Hmm.
gave you 8 hot summers.
Yep.
Hot summers through payola introductions.
Mm.
So I'm saying, yeah, people would like the songs, but you
Mhm.
gave the payola to introduce it
Right.
bigger
And
than AZ's whatever AZ might muster or
mhm.
anybody else.
Mhm.
There was a lot of guys out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why I said hot summers through payola introductions. Wore our flag with Jehovah embellishments.
Mm.
BK Nets toy to gentrify the residents.
Mm.
There's people gave him all this props for repping the BK Nets. He didn't really
Yeah.
own this shit,
No,
but
and he ushered in gentrification
he
in
was
Brooklyn.
advocating. At the same time, people were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get my own BK Nets jersey because he's out down with it. There were families out in Bed-Stuy fighting for their home.
Right.
They was fighting for their home. They was doing organized, marches and activist marches against it. All the while, he's, laughing it up when they asked him about gentrification. He's like, I kind of like it.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that, the whole thing was like the music could be good, but it don't mean nothing to me, God.
Hmm.
It don't mean nothing. It could never be GOAT level, God, because it always was compromised with all of these things that we never asked about. We never cared to ask about this.
Right.
He got crowned and no one cared. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I said, like, there's a thing in the ancient Chinese text, you know, that principles, they exist when they are toppled.
Mm.
So in other words, you don't describe righteousness until devilishment occurs.
Right, right.
Until then, we just naturally righteous, you know, and that's why I said the good ain't the only ones talented, you know, and I was trying to do it like a fairy tale. This fairy tale actually
happened, right? Right.
The good ain't the only ones talented. Principles of a world so demented, land of oppression, where we appease our repression with no transgression.
Mm.
You know, like we'll allow anything. We'll allow anything because, you know, we need these things. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate that somebody else was able to get through this muck. So we're not gonna analyze the bullshit that he did, because we don't know if we'd be a hypocrite too, you know? That's why I said that, you know what I'm saying? But
and you know, it's interesting because that always gets thrown into the debates and the argument when we're talking about skill, and somehow somebody will throw in, well, such and such made this much money, and it's like that's not an indicator.
I did this thing, like, and I said, like, there are certain MCs that if you take them off the planet, there's nothing that changes in hip hop. There's, like, if you took KRS off the planet, though, there's countless things that don't exist. And if they do get created, they're in a totally different way now.
Right.
Like, obviously, Rakim, you know what I'm saying? And people like that. If Jay-Z didn't exist, there's no real technique that you lose. There's no techniques that you lose. There's not even like commercial styles, because, sorry to say, but Busta Rhymes exists. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that was kind of the knock on him anyway, was that he was kind of taking other styles that were already being used, right?
And I threw all of those darts in again. I really did. He had dexterity steeped in derivatives. Whatever destiny creeping, he was competitive. You know what I mean? I was throwing in that thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to go back.
Yeah. And I used to have this argument because someone be like, yo, we gotta follow everybody that's dealing with the revolution. They're gonna bring it. And that's why I even mess with Day Son, because I said, since Hell Yeah, that's the song with Dead Prez. The Hell Yeah remix.
Oh, yeah.
Since Hell Yeah, they're waiting for reparations and revolution. But how long it takes for Chair with Bling on to reach absolution. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, he said, had that line, Chair with Bling on, you know, and I always thought it was such a bullshit line.
Right.
And nobody questions shit. Nobody says anything. You know what I'm saying? But you know, that's the way it was. And I didn't say it to, like, you know, all hip hop is battle. So as a writer, though, I think I really write God like nobody can topple me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if somebody's gonna say, well, like, yo, he's a better writer than you, and so that, I'll say emphatically no. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's if somebody's gonna say, like, yo, how could you write about that? He's successful, this and that. And I'm like, these are all the things that we were supposed to talk about. All of these things that I mentioned in the song, this is not written for him.
Right.
This was written because these are all the things that I wasn't allowed to question or write about during the 2000s, which I call the Dark Ages. And that's the one reason why it was so personally the Dark Ages for me, because they wouldn't let me write, God. They wouldn't let me question things.